There is one simple reality, and it's something that's been villainized, but the reality is that everyone wants to belong. You want to belong, I want to belong. And we think, oh, it's not that big of a deal. I'm fine not having meaningful relationships, not having meaningful connections. Because, quite frankly, if you've ever been in a crowd of people and felt alone anyway, you aren't alone. Most people have felt that, where it doesn't matter whether they're surrounded by people or they've been stuck in their house for 3 years by themselves. We are not meant to be alone. Human beings are designed to live in communities, and not just communities, but connected, meaningful communities. In fact, I think one of the absolute biggest problems that we face right now is the fact that we are alone. Now, there are a couple of reasons for this. One is the last couple of years, that's what everybody did or thought that they had to do, was to be alone, to isolate, to self-isolate. But this was a problem even before that. Even before the last couple of years, we have all struggled to really find meaningful and deep connections in our lives, especially as we get older and older. People don't have hobbies as much anymore. There aren't places where you can go and meet people. But even if you do meet people, how do you develop a meaningful connection with somebody? Because remember, we're all bringing our baggage from our past into every single new relationship that we have. So if we're weighed down with baggage and now we haven't really talked to very many people in real life for several years, it's a recipe for disaster. When people are isolated, their mental health tends to go down drastically. In fact, what is the worst punishment you can give someone? It isn't torture. It's isolation. They put people in the isolation tanks. What they do, they put people in isolation. The worst of the worst criminals as punishment are put in isolation. Prisoners of war are put in isolation. We are not mentally designed to be alone. We're designed to be with other people. All right. So we got two problems. The first problem is now we're alone all the time. We're alone with our thoughts. We may be physically alone a lot of the time, or we may be with other people who don't understand us. And we feel misunderstood. We feel like nobody really gets us, and we feel like we don't really belong anywhere. So that's the number one problem, right? Number two problem is how do you have healthy relationships? And I don't just mean romantic relationships, although it is very important to be friends with your romantic partner also. People don't have the skill sets to build meaningful and lasting friendships. And there's this thought that if you can just, oh, I don't know, you can just go and meet somebody or go to work with them and you can just be friends instantly, and that's how you build friendships. The reality is that you build trusted friendships over time. Have different experiences with people. It's the same with trust in general. Trust is built over time, and that may not be something that you've ever been told. You think, oh, I just trust someone instantly, or I don't. But you trust somebody by learning about them, and you learn about them in different circumstances. One of the things that I love the most about my life is the deep and meaningful friendships that I've built, including the ones I've built with my family. I credit that to two things. If you are going to pick a friend, this includes family members and this includes romantic partners. If you are going to pick someone, first of all, choose somebody that you actually like as a person, someone that you see qualities in them that are things that you really want in your life. Do you want someone who does what they say they're going to do? Do you want someone who's loyal? Do you want someone who's positive? You don't have to be happy go lucky, right? But positive most of the time. Are these qualities that you want in your life? Or look at somebody and say, well, they're wealthy or they're very attractive or whatever it is, but they don't really keep their promises and they screw their other friends over. And they're not kind to people. They're not kind to the waiter at the restaurant. They don't open doors for people. They're unkind. That's not somebody that you want to go and seek any kind of real relationship with. That's somebody that you don't really have a basis for trusting. And the way you decide this, if you don't know somebody very well, is observe. Observe how they talk about people. Observe how they interact with people. Observe the stories that they tell. The easiest way to learn about somebody is to listen to them. I know that's a wild notion, but the easiest way is to listen to someone. If you listen to someone and ask them questions about themselves, you will learn so much about them so quickly. So talk less, listen more. Get to know who the person is, and then decide if that's somebody that you want to put the time and effort and investment into. It's the same with romantic relationships. People just look at someone and they say, oh, well, they have status or they have security or they have whatever it is. And they don't really look at who that person is and consider, is that the type of person I want to be with? Does this person want to grow with me? Is this person stuck on being negative? Whatever it is. Okay, so that's part one, is you want to choose somebody who's an actually good fit, somebody that you want to be around, someone that you like talking to or like spending time with or have something real in common with. Because what you have in common might also be that you share a love of fishing or you share a love of Spartan races or whatever it is. So it's somebody that you choose and you want to be around because of who they are as a person. Now, here's the next part, and this is the part where a lot of people have trouble. That is that no one is perfect. I know you are perfect, I am sure, but really, no one is perfect. So, your friend, relationship, family member is not perfect either. But if you know that they're a good person and they're coming from a good place, the real thing to do is to give them grace. And here's what I mean by grace. It means the freedom to screw up, because they will. Your family member, your friend, your partner is going to screw up. They will never do everything perfectly, and they will never do everything that you want. And they shouldn't. If you had basically a robot who did everything right, you would probably be miserable. So accept them for their flaws. They will never be perfect, even if they're growing, because growth is very healthy and very important. But growth is messy. I don't know when we got to the point where we thought, oh, growth should be this beautiful linear thing where it's just like a straight line. No, growth is an absolute mess. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down, sometimes you're vibrating, you're going crazy, sometimes it's smooth and peaceful. But growth is a journey. And so, if you know that somebody is genuine on that, ask yourself, is this just something that I can really be okay with? Now, if it's something where they've crossed a really serious boundary, you can have a conversation with them about that. But if it's just something where they just screwed up, they didn't really mean it, which quite frankly is most of the time. In my experience, most of the time that people screw up, it's an accident. They don't mean to do that. They have their own baggage that they are trying to deal with. They have their own emotional stuff that they're trying to deal with. So give them grace, give them the ability, the space to grow and be imperfect in their growth and imperfect with you. Now, like I said, this isn't the same as an extreme situation. This is for pretty much most of human interaction. And if you do end up being triggered or having an extreme reaction to something that somebody says, take a second and ask yourself where that's coming from in you. Did that come from a past relationship that hurt you? Did that come from a friend who abandoned you? Where did that come from in you? And ask yourself, is that really what's happening right now? Anyway, thank you guys for being here with me, and I will see you in the next show.